It's over. The Edward Cabrera saga is over. He has been traded to the Chicago Cubs.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's emergency podcast territory. Edward Cabrera has been traded to the Chicago Cubs for 3 prospects: Owen, Caissie, Cristian, Hernandez, and Edgardo de Leon. More on the prospects later. Let's talk about this Edward Cabrera experience for a second. Okay. First off, it's not a surprise. It is not a surprise that Edward Cabrera is no longer a Marlin. The trade speculations really heated up around the trade deadline a season ago, where a lot of people expected Cabrera to be moved. The Marlins were enjoying his breakout season. There was talks of Cabrera at the beginning of last year being completely cooked in the rotation. He was never going to figure it out. And then he did. Career high in innings, career high in strikeouts. He was dominant. He looked every part of a major league caliber ace, someone that's going to lead your pitching staff for years to come. And then you pair that with the fact that he had 3 additional years of control. There wasn't a need to trade him at the deadline. There wasn't. The Marlins were hovering around 500 at the time. There was the idea that, hey, if we trade him now, then we might not maximize his value. Unless a team overpays for Cabrera, there's no rush. You have 3 additional years of control. So the fact that he finished the season and finished healthy, remember, there was an injury scare there back in September. He was shut down. His elbow, I believe he had an elbow sprain, and it seemed like the sky was falling. Would Edward Cabrera have Tommy John surgery? All trade value would have been cooked if that was the case. It wasn't. He came back. He pitched a game or 2 to close out the year. And then immediately, once the season ends, the narrative shifts to, okay, is Cabrera back on the trade block? Is Sandy Alcantara back on the trade block? And the rumors, the reports were that, all right, Alcantara is going to stick around in Miami. He's going to be present opening day. That's the expectations of the Marlins organization. And Cabrera's name continued to circulate. A couple weeks ago, they're talking with the Giants. They're talking with the Baltimore Orioles. And then just a couple of days ago, his name's being brought up in Yankees media that the Yankees are pursuing or discussing with the Marlins for a possible Edward Cabrera trade. And the names I saw from the Yankees, the prospects that would be coming back to Miami, was a complete joke, first and foremost. That was never going to get done. One thing about Peter Bendix is that when he has the cards in his hand and he has the leverage, he's not going to be taken for a fool. And I think what he's doing right now is selling high on a player whose value has never been higher and quite possibly never will be as high as it is right now. The Marlins are loaded with arms. You have Robbie Snelling, Thomas White coming up through the Marlins system, and they're going to make their debut in 2026. Robbie Snelling for sure. I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked at all if Thomas White at some point is pitching in Lone Depot Park. Not to mention healthy Ryan Weathers. I think the sky's the limit for Weathers. Have you looked at his stuff? He just hasn't been able to stay on the mound. But when he's healthy, the guy he's made like 24 starts over the last 2 years, 99-mile-an-hour fastball, electric changeup, electric stuff. I mean, swing and miss stuff across the board for Weathers. We are in a good situation as Marlins fans. there is a bit, there's a part of me that is upset at the fact I don't get to see the big three, right? To be quite honest with you, and if you're an everyday listener of the show, I was a proponent to keep Cabrera for the fact you have Yuri Perez, Sandy Alcantara, Edward Cabrera. That's one of the best rotations in all of baseball. But I understood the philosophy behind trading him. There is an injury risk, without a doubt. It seems like every year Cabrera is dealing with something. At one point, it's a blister to start the year, it feels like. Then it's an elbow. Luckily, he hasn't underwent Tommy John surgery, and the medicals obviously cleared. So the Cubs believe he's healthy. The Marlins believe he's healthy. And moving forward, I hope he has a great career with Chicago. But there was that injury risk. And without a shadow of a doubt, Peter Bendix and the Marlins front office took that into consideration. You have to. He's a 27-year-old pitcher who just eclipsed 100 innings for the first time. And while, yeah, those 100-plus innings, I think it was like 137, made 26 starts. It was awesome. It was the first time you'd seen that. So for the Marlins' perspective, there's naturally a little bit of distrust with Cabrera. Can he repeat that? You have 3 more years of control, but the worst case scenario, if you're Miami, is he gets hurt again, his production regresses, and he loses control of the strike zone because the stuff is there. The velocity's there. He has the devastating curveball. He has a slider and a changeup. All 3 secondary pitches are plus pitches. Fastball and sinker, not so much, but he throws it really, really hard. And you're gonna get guys to roll over, and it sets up the rest of your arsenal. So they decide on Wednesday, I'm recording this live here, January 7th, they're going to pull the trigger with Chicago. And news was breaking out this morning. The final package in return coming back to Miami, which I'm going to talk about in the next segment. Owen Caissie, that's the headliner. That is the main piece. That is what got this deal done. I want to clarify that. First and foremost, there was not going to be a deal done without Owen Caissie. With the Chicago Cubs. Full stop. Number 2, you get Cristian Hernandez. He was, according to Pipeline, the number 11 prospect in the Cubs system. He's a good defender. He's got a lot of speed. And then you have a throw-in piece, Edgardo de Leon, who's an 18-year-old, hasn't played above rookie ball. So Cabrera reinforces the Cubs rotation. They've been looking for a starter for months. I mean, dating back to last season at the trade deadline. I think Cabrera's name was involved with Chicago then at that time, and a deal didn't get done. I remember talking about the fact that, Owen Caissie is a prospect I'd like to have in the system. He's an intriguing player without a doubt. I'm gonna get into why you should be pumped up as a Marlins fan for the addition of Owen Caissie. And the Cubs got their ace. The Cubs got their frontline starter, of course, contingent upon the fact that he stays healthy. I mean, last season, the Cubs were leading the division. They were right up there with the Brewers. And I think their main acquisition at the deadline was like Michael Soroka from the Nationals. It was a very paltry, just kind of shot in the dark. They didn't go out and get the big fish, no pun intended. They did now with Edward Cabrera. So Cubs fans can rejoice, but they gave up a lot. They gave up Owen Caissie, who has the potential to be an absolute star in this Marlins lineup. I'm going to talk about Caissie right after this. Stay with me. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes every single month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to track every transaction or hunt down those hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in. It's the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Personally, I think this is great because there's been so many different times in my life where I'll realize I'm paying for a subscription I forgot about or I just don't use. So Rocket Money is going to track all those subscriptions, lets you cancel them within the app in just a few taps. No more hunting down customer service numbers and wasting all your time. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. I also want to remind you that you can join the Everydayer Club. Thank you guys for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Locked On, the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team, the Miami Marlins, every day. Now take it up a level. Go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Marlins with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Check the link down in the show notes to learn more. Owen Caissie is the newest addition to your Miami Marlins. And I got to say, guys, I am pumped for Caissie. I think Caissie has the potential to be a star. And the funny thing about Caissie is that he's been major league ready for months now, dating back to early last season. The question was not if he's going to make the major leagues. The question was when he's going to make the major leagues. He just didn't have an opportunity in Chicago. He was blocked in Chicago by other players. Now, Caissie at AAA is was one of the best hitters, one of the best power hitters at the AAA level. Last season had an 871 OPS, or rather a 937 OPS, even better in the minors. 22 bombs, hit 286, got on base at a good clip, at a 386 clip. I mean, the power is there. This is a guy that has 81 career minor league home runs, and he's ready to take that next level. You look at the metrics. You look at the metrics from Owen Caissie, okay? And it's just red across the board. He's a player who is just so exciting. His max exit velocity, 113.3 miles per hour. He ranks in the 90th percentile in AAA for EV. 92.1 miles an hour. He hits the ball hard. He finds the barrel at a 17% clip. Hard hit percentage, 53.4%. He walks, again, talking about that on-base percentage, he walked last season at a 13.3% clip. Zone swing percentage, good. He doesn't take a ton of pitches in the zone. When he finds his pitch, he goes out and attacks it. And he's a true power bat. Former second-round pick, back in the COVID draft, that 2020 draft out of Notre Dame Catholic High School. I believe that's in Canada, originally drafted by the Padres. And I can't recall what trade brought him to Chicago. If someone in the chat knows, type that in there. But I'm excited, guys. His ex-WOBA, all the advanced stats, they're elite. The one main concern with Caissie, I would say, is kind of the concern with Kyle Stowers. And that's just the type of profile that Caissie brings. That's the strikeout rate. That's the whiff percentage. Guess what? In 2026, as we now are entering the 2026 season, settling into January, time flies. These prospects, these power hitters, they're going to have concerns like this. You're going to have players who swing and miss a lot. It's about, can you manage it? Can you manage to have enough contact? And then again, can you improve upon the holes in your swing? Because let's be honest, the jump from AAA to the major leagues is one of the hardest in all of professional sports, making that adjustment. And Caissie did get, he got a taste of the majors a season ago, just 26 at-bats. He did homer, but he went 5 for 26, 192 average. It's a cup of coffee. I'm not going to put any emphasis on that stat line in just 26 at-bats, and neither should you. What you need to do is you need to look at the tools and what he brings to the table. Probably going to play in the outfield. And now you look at this Marlins team, and you look at an outfield consisting of Jacob Marcy, Kyle Stowers, Owen Caissie, Griffin Conine, not to mention Edgardo Hernandez, who is a favorite player of this particular show. The Marlins are in a really good spot with their outfield depth. First base, of course, it's the big question, right? They didn't get a first baseman. The idea was maybe they're going to go out and trade for a first baseman. Guess what? They also talked about moving Griffin Conine to play first base. Maybe you move Edgardo Hernandez and give him some repetitions at first base. Eric Wagaman is no longer on the team. He's not going to be taking at-bats. There are ways to compete among multiple players to fill that void at first. What I care about is the numbers I see from Owen Caissie and the potential to truly be a plus hitter in this system. So somebody that rakes. 6'3", 190. He's just 23 years old, right? He's put up really good numbers at every single level. Hits the ball so hard. That's one of my favorite stats in baseball is can you hit the ball? Can you make enough contact, and when you do so, do you hit it hard? And Caissie does. But he also manages to put up a good batting average, right? He's not up there like, this isn't a Matt Mervis type where he 1 out of 13 plate appearances, he's going to knock one, in the gap, get a double, maybe a home run, but the other 12, he's going to be swinging out of his shoes, and he just has no idea how to fill the strike zone, how to operate the strike zone as a hitter. And he's also not like Luis Arias. This is, look, with all due respect to Luis Arias isn't a game-changing bat. He hits the ball, he gets on base, but he's reliant upon the big boppers, the big guys in the lineup. Caissie fits that bill. Kyle Stowers fits that bill. Jacob Marcy, he showed a ton of potential, and I think Jacob Marcy is a 5-tool type player. And if he continues his progression heading into next season and making the adjustments when he's attacked with different looks and different pitches and game plans by opposing pitching coaches and pitchers, Jacob Marcy can be really good too, and already is really good. This outfield is good. Otto Lopez. I'm going to talk about Otto Lopez. You're going to hear about him a lot on this show. Otto Lopez at shortstop, breakout season coming. Watch. Geraldo Perdomo from a season ago. This is my prediction. Hint, bold prediction episodes later on, maybe in the offseason and spring training. Otto Lopez is the guy to watch. Owen Caissie can make the team out of spring training. If he doesn't, okay, he starts at AAA. He starts raking, just kind of like Augustin Ramirez a season ago. People are going to start asking, all right, when are we calling him up? Because I believe he's ready. Now, the second part of this trade, okay, Cristian Hernandez and Edgardo de Leon. Let's talk about Cristian Hernandez for a little bit. 11th ranked prospect in a decent Cubs system. He's 22 years old, 6'2", 175 pounds, signed back in 2021 out of the Dominican Republic. And his game is reliant upon speed and defense. He can stick at shortstop, can play shortstop, but he's a really good base runner. And what do we know about the Marlins? They're emphasizing the intangibles, the speed. Jacob Marcy, he's a speedster out there in center field. Cristian Hernandez needs some work with the bat. He does. And there was a reason why the Cubs left him unprotected in the Rule 5 draft. Nobody took him, partly due to the fact that his most recent stop was at high A, and you're not going to reasonably draft a player in the Rule 5 draft and make him stay on the major league roster all the way from high A. That's not going to work. The Marlins did that with Liam Hicks, but Hicks was Double-A, so this is a lot different. Now, at high A last season, hit 252, which is okay. There's something to get behind. It's not like he's hitting 180 and you're just banking on some drastic turnaround. No, 252 is respectable. 694 OPS. This was in 115 games. Not a ton of power there. Not a ton of power for Hernandez, but that's not the headliner. I think he's a good secondary piece. I would have liked to see more. I would have liked to see more, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I coveted Jonathan Long, the first base DH prospect for the Cubs. If you told me the Marlins got Caissie and Long as the 1-2 headliners in this trade, I would have been over the moon, because you pencil Long in at first base. Yes, he's shorter. There's some defensive questions there, but the dude can really hit. But if Hernandez can take that jump during his first season in the Marlins organization, then this is going to be a player who can absolutely make an impact down the road. 52 stolen bases a season ago, 7 home runs. Maybe the power ticks up just a little bit. Maybe you get a 10 to 15 home run type bat with the speed. And all of that's gravy. That's what I want to emphasize. The Hernandez and De Leon, who's 18 years old, hasn't played above rookie ball, that stuff's gravy. Because what this trade tells me is that the Marlins view Caissie as a true cornerstone type player. They are banking on him to succeed and hit at the major league level. And not just hit, not just be an average player, but no, be a bona fide star. Someone that is a face of the franchise type player. Because if they didn't expect that, you're not going to move Edward Cabrera. Caissie is the number 1 prospect in the Cubs system. They didn't want to trade him, but you gotta pay. You gotta pay up if you want to get an impact arm. That's how the market is. And they did so. And now the Marlins' hopes reside with Owen Caissie that he's going to come in and be a plus major leaguer. And you pair him with Agustin Ramirez, you pair him with Kyle Stowers, you pair him with Otto Lopez, Jacob Marcy. Suddenly this team is dangerous. This team is dangerous. They're ready to compete. And all of that is contingent upon, of course, how do you replace Cabrera's production in the rotation and the development of Owen Caissie as a major leaguer. Coming up next, we're going to talk about how the Marlins do replace Edward Cabrera, because right now it is a loss in the rotation. We're also going to continue to talk about Owen Caissie, what the Marlins could look like next season. Stay with me after the break. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like the most. Open your profit boost first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. You could have your defense pitch in a shutout. Who knows? You have a hunch that this defense is going to cause some havoc, cause some turnovers. Maybe the quarterbacks are going to pop off, throw for multiple touchdowns. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. I'm super excited for wildcard weekend. I'm a diehard Chargers fan. Justin Herbert, get it done in New England. Scary place to play. Patriots are a good team, but I believe. Go Chargers. So visit FanDuel, it's official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL game day. I got a lot of people in the comment section. I appreciate you guys. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that like button. Just takes a second. It's free of charge. Nothing happens, but it helps us out, helps me out. And of course, let me know your thoughts about this trade in the comment section. Owen Caissie, man, I'm excited. I'm so excited. This is the type of blue chip prospect that the Marlins have needed, that they've coveted. I mean, for months it felt like Peter Bendix was doing the right thing. He was building the Marlins into a contender. The farm system was getting deeper. Guys were emerging. Guys were developing. And then guess what? There was something that was lacking, and it was that true blue chip offensive prospect. Yeah, they have blue chips in the rotation. I mean, Robbie Snelling and Thomas White and Robbie Snelling, rather, as your number 1 and number 2 pitching prospects, that's awesome. That's great, and teams would covet that. But offensively, who was your best offensive prospect? Probably Joe Mack. And Joe Mack is going to make his debut early on in 2026, hopes to be the catcher of the future. I would guess that Owen Caissie's ranked above Joe Mack. Whenever these prospect outlets come up with their prospect rankings, Caissie will be above Joe Mack, and I would put him there too. It's not really an argument. That's the type of blue chipper the Marlins need. It's kind of like college football recruiting, right? Signing day. You're waiting for that 5-star to sign. Maybe you have 25, 30 commits, but the majority's 3-star. You have a couple 4 stars. And then you get that true 5-star that commits to your school over everybody else. That's the addition of an Owen Caissie. So I'm looking at the comment section. Caissie was ranked 49. He was in the 40s. Mac was in the 90s. Yeah, and I think that's by pipeline. They have tons of media outlets out there. Baseball America, Just Baseball, of course. You have Jack McMullen, voice of the Marlins, RM Layton, great content over there. But the consensus is Caissie's going to come in day one and be the best Marlins prospect. And at some point, be given the reins to be an everyday starter in the Miami Marlins organization on the big league team at Lone Depot Park. Him, Stowers, Ramirez, Lopez. Does that fire you up? Because it fires me up. Because if Caissie can match his potential, again, this is all theoretical. His potential is there. He's got all-star potential. 30 home runs, 100 RBIs. That's the type of player he can be. Now, on the flip side of things, before we wrap up today's show, how will the Marlins replace Edward Cabrera's production? That's the question, right? Because as it stood a couple days ago, if everybody stayed the same, nobody was moved, you'd have a rotation looking like Yuri Perez, Sandy Alcantara opening day, Edward Cabrera, Yuri Perez, and then the 4 and the 5, there were a lot of options. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Robbie Snelling, call up Robbie Snelling. They're not going to call Robbie Snelling up yet. I don't believe so, because they want to give him that additional year of control. And it's something with the service time manipulation. It's how Major League Baseball works. You may think it's stupid. That's what we experienced a couple of years ago with Max Meyer. Remember that start Max Meyer made against the Braves? Went like 5 shutouts, struck out 7 or 8, and got sent down a couple days after. And everybody was like, what are we doing? He's our best pitcher on the staff right now. Robbie Snelling, I would guess, starts off at AAA, makes a few starts. When he's eligible to get that, when that extra year of control kicks in, he'll get called up. Thomas White waiting in the wings. Jansen Junk, to me, I think you can pencil him in as a starter. I really like what Jansen Junk did a season ago. Looked really good. The command, he had like 10 walks all season long. Underrated arm. Jansen Junk, another Bendix treasure find. Talk about somebody who was overlooked by everybody else. Junk was bouncing around from the Brewers to the A's to the Angels. And Peter Bendix says, okay, I like what I see. Scoop him up on a minor league deal. Ends up playing a huge role for the Marlins down the stretch last season. Braxton Garrett's an X factor for me. Can Braxton Garrett regain anything as to what he had back in 2023? Can he look like that version of Braxton Garrett? Because if he does, then Garrett will be in the rotation. And you can't justify him not being in the rotation. Garrett also could be somebody that starts the year at AAA, gets his feet warm, gets back into the routine of pitching every 5 days, and then gets called up. But watch out for Braxton Garrett. Adam Major is a low ceiling, high floor kind of guy, in the sense that I think he's solid. I don't think he's anything special, but he can give you innings. He can give you some starts if you need him to. This team does have options. They absolutely have options. The loss of Cabrera hurts the immediate rotation, but the guys that are coming up, we're going to need to pitch. Robbie, you're not going to block Robbie Snelling from making his major league debut. You're not going to block Thomas White from making his major league debut. And now you have Owen Caissie. And if Owen Caissie hits, this is a win for the Marlins. You have your guy. You have your blue chip prospect. Can't wait for opening day. Can't wait for spring training. We got a couple more months till March hits, and then it's game on. Everybody's out there competing. We're going to continue the podcast, of course. Man, Owen Caissie is a Miami Marlin. Gotta love it. You gotta love it. They got their guy. The Marlins got their guy. They got Owen Caissie. For Edward Cabrera, it's bittersweet. I appreciate everything he's done for the organization. I loved watching him pitch. One of my favorite pitchers in the Marlins org. I remember him as a prospect, made his debut with the Fish, developed, and finally broke out in a big way in 2025. I wish him nothing but the best. I'm going to continue to watch him pitch in a Cubs uniform, and I hope both sides end up happy with this deal, because I don't want to see Cabrera get hurt again or anything like that. I do think the breakout was real, but I think the Marlins also sold high at his highest possible value, and they got a player who can be an absolute game changer for this lineup. That's what they need. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe, stay locked on, and as always, let's go fish.